Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. This is the Newcastle Healthwatch and Gateshead Healthwatch joint AGM. So just to go into the agenda for today, if we can go to the next slide, please, Beth. We'll be hitting on introductions, a short section of welcome and apologies. We'll then have appointments and resignations from both Gateshead and Newcastle sides, as well as a quick reflection from both chairs, and then we'll have a reflection from myself. So introductions, I'll start with me. I'm Phil Capewell. I am the Ops Manager for both Healthwatch Newcastle and Healthwatch Gateshead. If we can just go around and we'll do some quick introductions. I'll start from my top right, which is Michael Brown.
Hello, I'm Michael Brown. I'm the Chair of Healthwatch Gateshead.
And Peter Deans.
Hi, I'm Peter Deans. I'm the current Chair of Healthwatch Newcastle, but outgoing Chair.
And Jill. Quick little mute button there.
Oh, got it. Hi, I'm Jill Clancy. I'm a committee member for Newcastle. My background is in education. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. And Terry?
Hi, my name's Terry Bowpart. I'm a committee member for Healthwatch Newcastle. My background is in quality improvement in the NHS and social care.
And John?
Thank you, Phil. My name's John. I'm a committee member for Newcastle Healthwatch and the incoming chair.
And Alistair?
Alistair Cameron. I'm a committee member for Healthwatch Newcastle, and my background voluntary sector and mental health.
And Fee?
Hi, my name is Fee Awotona, and I'm a committee member of the Newcastle Healthwatch Committee. And as you can see, I am not about Christmas hamburg. You know, I love Christmas. So happy Christmas, everybody. My background is from the NHS. I'm a retired consultant gynecologist.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you, everyone. So we do have some apologies today. So we have apologies from Shamshad, Mari, Lynn, and Samande. And just to let everyone know that the information we're sharing today is over an extended period. A lot of the information is in our annual report. However, some things are newer than that. So it's just to make people aware of that. Thank you. I'll pass over to Michael now.
Thank you, Phil. Just want to mention, in terms of appointments and resignations from the Gateshead Committee, during the period in question, two people have stepped down from the committee. It's Michael Peacock and Rachel Smith. And we've had four people join the committee: Mary Cox, Lynn Boyle, Jane Quilty, and Dr. Samande Ayongbi.
Great, thank you, Michael. And Peter?
Thank you, Phil. So in terms of appointments and resignations from the Newcastle Healthwatch Committee, two people have stepped down, Ida Dodzo and Alexandros Sturgis Chantler. And in terms of joining, I joined in February of this year, and I'm delighted to say that John Knight joined in September of this year, and he will become chair at the end of this meeting, and I think he'll be an excellent chair for the committee.
Thank you, Peter. I agree with that there. So if you want to do your update, Michael, and Beth, can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you.
Okay, everyone, this is some of the main business of the AGM today, just to have a reflection upon the year in question, 2021, in Gateshead to begin with. I don't intend to go through every line on all of the slides, just pick out some of the highlights, but obviously the main issue for us during that time was the start of COVID, And who knew that we'd be in the same position going into winter this time as we were last year. But there we are where we are. And it's important to note the position around COVID, because Healthwatch Gateshead and Healthwatch Newcastle's work continued despite COVID. As you can see there, some of the statistics. We still heard from nearly 1,400 people about experiences of health and social care. We gave direct support to 142 people in Gateshead. And we did some in-depth research work, 9 reports about the improvements people would like to see, and 19 recommendations for improvement. And we follow up on recommendations for improvement. We'll talk about this a bit later. It's important to realise that we might do fancy reports, but the important thing is that something changes as a result of it. Not forgetting the sterling work of our volunteers. We had 9 volunteers carrying out work during this very challenging period, overall contributing 329 hours. And you can see there the kind of things they get involved in: mystery shopping surveys, support to some of our partner organisations, and certainly to Gateshead Council's campaign to encourage everyone to wear a face covering and other measures to combat COVID. Next slide, please, Beth. Some highlights in a bit more detail. We carried out a bit of research at the request of Gateshead Council. It's important that we do get requests to carry out such work, because I think it indicates our reputation for research, and coming up with practical solutions is a very good one. They asked us to look at the front door to social care services. We made some recommendations in 4 key areas. And as a result of that, as I said before, it's no point in carrying out this research or doing these reports if we don't see some improvements which enable people to understand that our work leads to changes to the way they experience health and social care. And those changes are good changes. So based on our findings in this particular piece of work, introduced online forms for unpaid carers assessments, and made up a simple flow chart on the council's website so that people could see straight away the different stages they would go through. And we made sure that it was user-friendly. Another piece of work we did was around Arabic interpreting services for patients in Gateshead. We discovered this was a problem. We entitled it Lost in Translation. Again, we produced a report, and the Foundation Trust acted on those recommendations. So some of those improvements were aligning interpreting services with the accessible information standards. So we made sure that the quality aspect was looked at, and also the fact that contract meetings took place with the interpreters to make sure that recruitment of interpreters was kept at a reasonable level to meet demand. Next slide. So just some very basic facts there. The number of people we had contact with, over 305,000 through outreach and engagement. And we have improved an awful lot in the way we deal with social media and the social media channels which are available to us. So the top 4 themes there is displayed. So highest was staff attitudes at 37%. Then fairly equal, we had access to health services and treatment and care experiences. And then following up just a smaller amount, 10% on making a complaint. I think it'll be interesting when we're here this time next year, just to see if those themes have changed. I would reckon there'll be a higher proportion on access to health services, but that's where we were in 2021. Next slide, Beth, please. Just looking at the finances, our main income is obviously from Gateshead Council, the local authority, and our contract is worth 140,000. Just while we're talking about contracts with local authorities, just to mention that Gateshead contract will be put out to tender for next year from April. And obviously we will be bidding for that, but we would expect to see a reduction as councils have to make savings. But our main source of income is through the contract, with a little bit of extra income, just over £3,000. In terms of our expenditure there, you can see the breakdown, majority on staffing costs, followed up by roughly the same operational and support administration. Obviously, we keep an eye on expenditure, making sure that there's no unnecessary expenditure is incurred. Okay, thank you for listening to the Gateshead overview. I'll now pass you over to Peter, who will take you through the Newcastle experience for the year.
Thanks very much, Michael. And to echo your reflections, it's been a very unusual and challenging year with the COVID pandemic for many organisations to operate. And I think our Healthwatch organisations have done a remarkably good job in adapting to the challenges and in continuing to provide an excellent service. So in the year in question, we heard from nearly 2,400 people about their experiences, and we've supported several hundred people, 435 people in the city during the period. The bread and butter of our work has been in dives into particular aspects of work, and 6 reports have been produced with 12 recommendations for improvement. And as Michael says, it's that matters. It's getting it's not only engaging with users to hear their views, it's our role in being able to communicate those views with authority to the service providers and those who are planning services, which is such a key part of our work. We've had 7 volunteers help us in this, and it's been a particularly challenging year, I think, to be a volunteer in this space. Who knew that we would be all engaging and working on systems like this through Zoom? You wouldn't have predicted it, but that's how it's been. So I'd like to thank the volunteers, and indeed I'd like to thank the staff who've been involved, and to thank the committee members for their continued hard work and efforts during this period. Next slide, please, Beth. A couple of highlights from the year that we're looking at for this AGM include the Participation in Practice Awards, which focused on GP patient participation groups. GP patient participation groups are a really key part of the way that primary care can engage with users of the services. And so this was an important piece of work. And it was a pilot involving 12 GP practices, 6 of whom completed the award in the year in question. And that has led to further conversations about the way in which GPs can engage with their local communities. And so an important piece of work. And then a piece of work on young people's access to health services in Newcastle. And in particular, I think on this piece of work, how timely the reflections on the transition into adult mental health services. Mental health has been a feature of the pandemic, and so it's felt an important message to be addressing. And their experience of the difficulties they faced was reported in the work that we heard on this. We also, I think, as part of this, were able to inform young people about the choices they have about patients, so that the process of engagement was actually supportive to the people we engaged with. It wasn't just sucking information and experience out one way. It was actually helpful to those people to engage with us in that process. And I think that's a mark of good engagement, and that is that's something that we like to see reflected in our work. Next slide, please. Just as in Gateshead, we've managed to connect with a lot of people, and yes, social media has been hugely important on this. And here are the top 4 things that people talked about or wanted to communicate with us about: staff attitudes, and one might instantly assume that was to complain about staff attitudes, but some of those comments were positive and positive reflections on what people had experienced, which is always good. Treatment and care, making a complaint, and obviously we're not the body that receives or deals with complaints, but we do play a valuable role in helping people to think about how to go about that process and signposting them to the appropriate place for the issue that is concerning them, which is an important function that we carry out. And indeed, on access to health services, And that has been a strong theme that has emerged over across the year, just as pressures on services have grown. Next slide, please, Beth. As with Newcastle, our main income comes from our contract with the local authority to deliver the Healthwatch service. But you can see that we've also secured £36,000 to work on engagement with users on other projects, and that's been valuable to us. The expenditure that is shown on this chart relates just to the work or under the local authority contract. So you can see that's where the money has gone. And obviously we've made a surplus in the year, but I'd just like to point out that we are a not-for-profit organisation. All those surpluses or any surplus we make is there to serve our mission, which is very similar to the Healthwatch mission anyway, and so that money will be reinvested in those services. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Michael. So the next part is just kind of reflections on delivery from the organisation providing the work. So obviously it's been very unusual and challenging times, very different approaches, and that has not just been with engagement and things like that. There's been a lot of changes internally, as well as uncontrollable external factors such as the pandemic. So with response to the headliner of the pandemic, we've made some changes, primarily around the way we have worked. We've moved from working in 2 local offices to working from home. We obviously weren't able to do any face-to-face or in-person activities, and moved to a more digital platform, which obviously has its own challenges, especially as there has been some survey fatigue in the public, because everyone's just been forced to change the way they work, and it's had limiting options of how we can do that throughout while keeping everyone safe. So we've also changed and moved from our current way of setting priorities. During the pandemic, we obviously had our own priorities at the start, but we then later moved to Healthwatch England priorities, which was in line with the advice we were getting and what other local Healthwatch were doing as well. I'm proud to say that the staff team stepped up during that pandemic, and thank you to everyone that was involved, especially in the early days where there was a lot of uncertainty. And also thank you to committee members who have also stepped up and helped us and guided us and provided sound advice. And obviously there's been a lot of learning to do through the staff team, through the committee members, through everyone, and we're all still telling each other we're on mute and things like that. So it's still a learning curve. So changes as well. We've had obviously a lot of staff changes as well internally. Our previous long-standing CEO left us, and we had an interim CEO for a period of months before Siobhan O'Neill, our current CEO, joined during the pandemic and during the lockdown as well. So that was a challenging time. A number of other staff also joined in that period. Myself, Jackie and Wendy all joined, and we said goodbye to some staff, particularly our long-standing project managers, Rachel and Kim, who were a big loss. Kate also left us, who supported us with admin to pursue a career in teaching, and we wish her luck with that. And it was just to say again, a big thank you to the staff team, current and previous, for all the support. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes in committee as well, which have already been touched on by Michael and Peter. And just to sum up, we have been through a challenging period of time, but we would like to think we've overcome this, and despite this, we have done some good pieces of work. We have done some good research pieces which are available on our website, and we've learned to change kind of the way we do things. So a couple of examples with them would be the information videos, which were an interview style video we done with organisations to help promote what was accessible in the area. Examples of this was with Blood Bikes, with Josephine and Jack Project, and various others. We also did a piece of work with Skills for Work around video diaries for young people and their experience of services. That was also a really good piece of work. We linked in with Making Changes, who are a new group to combat loneliness and isolation. We continued to do surveys, although they weren't face-to-face as we had done previously, but in conjunction with Healthwatch England, we did vaccine surveys, and we're currently doing some work around dentistry, which is an ongoing survey, but we also plan to do an open shop, and that is a piece of work that is not just joint working with the two health watchers at this meeting, but with other 8 out of the 13 local Northeast health watchers as well. So we're looking forward to the fruits of that. We have also started to look at how we decide on our priorities and how we work in that, and that's exciting as well, because there's a lot of scope within that to do some things and challenge our thinking of what we think is possible as a health watch to do. So that's really exciting work. We've also continued to do our information and advice service, which has been utilised by a fair few people. So I think the last kind of thank you is around with the volunteers who have, as you can see from previous slides, who have contributed a large number of hours, and they've probably helped us in more ways than they know. They've had to obviously do a lot of learning as well, turning their hand from hosting stalls and doing face-to-face meetings. And they also delivered befriending support to vulnerable and lonely people in partnership with Age UK and Mental Health Concerns. And they're still ongoing helping us with the dentistry work and other pieces of work as well as some of the data analysis. So the last kind of thing to touch on would be obviously the events over the last week or so. And obviously we're now again, after slowly going back to the office, we're all learning again to how we can work from home more effectively, and particularly around what learning we had last time and how we can use that in our strategic thinking and understanding going forward of how to deliver. But yeah, so we're focused on that, and we're just keeping on delivering a great Healthwatch service, which is the main thing. Next slide, please, Beth. So the last slide was around questions for the public, or from the public. We did not receive any of these ahead of time, and have not been made aware of any that have come in during the live stream. So at this point, I would like to bring our AGM to a close, and I would like us to now, if we can stop the recording, and if for anyone who would like to find out more information about the work that we have done or any of the ongoing work, or like to be involved in work with volunteering or however that may look, they can go to our websites where all the information we've talked about today are available.